Greetings, everyone. I'm Terry Naturally, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about who I am and what I've been doing for the last 50 years. I've been in the health food industry, been developing formulations, also research on other ingredients. I love to follow the science on botanical medicines. I like to see what's going on around the world in terms of how various countries use their natural botanicals and natural medicines to help their citizens, the population of those countries. I've been writing books. In fact, I've written with a really dear colleague of mine, Dr. Holly Lucille, and she's going to join me in just a few moments. But one of my goals this year, at the beginning of January, I wanted to write 10 books this year. So far, I've completed about 5 or 6 of those books, and I have joined with other really professional people that have been very deep in science as well, and also in healing. So we have finished some books that are very, very fantastic, like The Healing Power of Trauma Comfrey, and we have books on melatonin, antigraphis, on grapeseed extract, and several other great books. And they're available, and I'll tell you later as we end the program, where you can get those books at a very minimal charge, and also on Amazon. But I want to introduce you to Dr. Holly Lucille, who is a naturopathic doctor and is actually working with a practice helping primarily women.
You know what? Everybody at this point in time.
Everybody, great, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I've opened it up.
Maybe I should come and see you.
You know what? I don't know what I could do any more for you than you already do for yourself.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah,
but,
pillar of health.
I learn from everybody.
Yes, you do.
You know, there's nobody in the world that knows everything, and I like to pick everybody's brain. I like to walk away from learning just a few things, and that's enough to know enough.
You do a great job at emptying your cup, because you know what? If everybody thinks they know everything, there's no more room to get anything in, right? So when you empty your cup, you're an open vessel for even more information, and I see you exemplify that all the time. It's one of the things I love about you.
Well, thank you very much. But tell me, what are you doing, and how did you get in this, and how did you develop yourself as a naturopathic physician?
It's a great question. So I am the daughter of 2 pharmacists. So way long ago, right? When I was a kid, my healthcare was here, take this. Something was wrong, you here, take this. It was a prescription all the time. And even at a young age, I knew there was something I wasn't okay with that approach. I knew that there was something more when it came to our incredible bodies that know how to heal themselves. And the here, take this approach, So I got into nursing, and I still felt that same way. There was still so much reductionistic values in that program. And so I thought, oh, I'm doomed, right? It must be me. I'm the common denominator. I'm just frustrated with everything. And then I found holistic nursing. And I learned that it wasn't the education I have, it's how you applied it that made the difference. And that led me to go to naturopathic medical school, where you can look at things like identify and treat the cause and treat the whole person and use the least invasive methods to diagnose and treat. So before pharmaceuticals, there are these incredible botanical medicines. There's clinical nutrition, there's dietary interventions, there's lifestyle modifications. There's so many things we can do first to create no harm in assisting the body's ability to do its job, which is heal itself.
Right, truly.
So that's pretty much how it happens.
Truly, and probably 95% of all our diseases are caused by the American diet, or at least food. Food should be our best medicine.
Yep.
And if we don't get the right food, we don't get the right outcome, we don't get the right result.
Yep.
And then that's treated with the drug, which actually was caused by not having the right kind of food in our diet.
It's as simple as that. It is truly as simple as that. Food is so much in this country, in this society. It can be celebratory. It can be used in religious ceremonies. It can be used as a drug. But you and I like to use it as medicine, and it's the best.
Truly is. Truly is the best medicine.
And you eat for an outcome. You do. You can eat for an outcome, and the garbage in, it's garbage out.
But
that's
the food
what your
manufacturers have destroyed that.
Correct.
By putting out packaged foods, prepared foods, processed foods, refined foods.
Nutritionally valueless food. And if you've ever taken a biochemistry class, it's like taking a nutrition class, because those cofactors, those vitamins and minerals, they're what fuel our body's ability to work and do everything it needs to do throughout the day and throughout the night.
And 90% of Americans eat a high carb diet,
Yep.
high sugar diet,
Yes.
and refined to a point where there is nothing left nutritionally in neither of the carbohydrates or the sugar.
Only 12% of the population in the United States doesn't have a metabolic disorder, and it's exactly because of what you're saying.
Isn't that a shame?
Well,
And we live in the land of plenty, and we could have all kinds of good foods, but nobody is helping anybody understand and educate them that food is what they should be having and not drugs.
exactly.
But we need to talk about that too, because we need to talk about, hey, if we're talking about food and how it affects our body, what about stress? Today, if you look around this country, there can't be any more stress than we have today.
No. And it's been such extraordinary times. I think the stress that Americans were dealing with prior to this last, couple years, it's gotten exponentially worse. And, when we used to have a natural relationship with stress, or I would say a more natural relationship with stress, for example, the locusts are coming and we have to, protect the crop. So there's a stress response, but guess what? We're healthy enough to mount that response, take care of business. The stress gets mitigated, and guess what we get? We get these couple weeks of what's called recovery. That is, I think, the problem with modern day stressors. They're compounded, they're confounded, and they're constant. And people are not getting into recovery where we can replenish those building blocks, replenish those nutrients needed to mount that stress response. And so it's just this cycle of a sympathetic do loop, I call it. It's just nonstop sympathetic nervous system on fire, and people are burning out quickly.
Right. What do you do for a person like that? What if you have someone coming into your clinic and, I am burned out, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I don't feel good, I get headaches. Where do you start?
So one of my principles is dosiere, right? We were talking about Latin before.
Yes,
It's one
right.
word I might know. So in Latin, dosiere, to teach. So the best thing I can start is helping people understand that this is not a sustainable situation, okay? That it's going to lead to health issues down the road quickly, and a plethora of them. And so that teaching is really important, just to let them understand that they're okay, that there's a reason that they got all, stressed out and burnt out, but that we can turn it around because the body is resilient and we need to put things on board. For example, adaptogens are a lovely category of botanical medicines.
I love them.
I call them fuse lengtheners, right? So I think that they help lengthen the fuse emotionally, mentally, physically, socially, environmentally, and helps mitigate the stressors that people are under. And so that's certainly something. And then of course I would address diet and lifestyle, making sure that the opposite of sympathetic, we've got to have that balance in all ways, right, is parasympathetic. So rest, relax, repair. We've got to start getting those things into their life.
Now, you talked about adaptogens. I have some of my favorites. What would be an adaptogen that you'd recommend for somebody that has stress or burned out or exhausted? Do you have any favorite ones? Do you have some that that work effectively?
Two come to mind, ashwagandha and rhodiola.
I love both of them.
And synergistically together. That's the other thing about botanical medicine. You think about, let's say, a COX-2 inhibitor, right? What does it do? It inhibits one thing.
Right.
The COX-2
One
enzyme.
pathway.
One pathway. These plant medicines they have the ability to hit more molecular targets than just one synthesized pharmaceutical. And they can do different things in the body. So together, there's a 1 + 1 almost equals 10 effect.
Right.
And that's one of the things and the side effects are not there. They're effective, and you don't have the side effects. You just have the effects that you want.
Right.
Yeah.
If you mentioned all the things that an adaptogen can do, and then you would tell a doctor about that. Well, a doctor cannot believe that something like an adaptogen, like rhodiola, ashwagandha, and one of my other favorite one is red ginseng. They can't believe that because they are so so brainwashed, I guess, but also on target, that a drug, because of the single molecular structure, can only target one pathway.
Right.
So they think single-minded, that does that.
Yep.
And you don't think about all the other things that can be done with nature because it has all these other molecular structures. Like some of these have thousands of molecules where a drug has one molecule.
Right. You bring up a great point, because sometimes my patients will be in my office and actually get quite upset because they're like, why didn't my other doctor say this to me? And I kind of ask them not to give their other doctor, quote unquote, a break, because allopathic Western medicine is rooted in the science of reductionism. You are reduced to a symptom, a diagnosis, a lab test, and usually that reductionistic view requires a reductionistic thing to heal it, which is a drug.
One drug.
They think that way. They're taught to think that way. So my job is, and your job, I think, which you do so great at, is to help people start opening up their own minds to somewhat be their own primary care providers, right? Being able to teach them that there are other systems of medicine out there that are effective, but are looking at things in a different way, that are more comprehensive, that have to do with outcomes and the body's ability to heal itself, and removing obstacles to cure, right? The obstacles that are in the way. Too much gluten, too much refined sugar. That's in the way of the body doing its incredible job. Let's remove that instead of here, take this. And so that is an important point. There are different, and second opinions are always lovely, you know? Don't just say, oh, my doctor told me to take that. You go ahead and take power for yourself. We gotta give people back the power.
I always tell people on my radio show, you and I are the only ones that can actually improve our health or actually undermine our health, destroy our health. The doctor does not know anything about health or nutrition. 7 years, 12 years of med school to get about an hour of nutrition per year.
Correct.
And the drugs don't improve health. They are very specific, and they may be helpful, may be necessary if somebody has an emergency,
Oh, sure.
an accident, an injury of some kind. We do need drugs.
Yes, there's a place for everything.
But all the things that are being caused in our body by a lack of food, of the right type of food,
Yes.
gives us symptoms.
Yes.
If we don't eat the right kind of food. And those symptoms are treated by drugs. And that's what bothers me.
Yeah, and
Drugs
then,
are necessary, but not for that cause.
right, because then you have other drugs to treat the side effects of those drugs.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That is very, very true. But our modern day maladies, is that a word? I think that's a word. Okay. By far, they're modifiable because they're lifestyle oriented, and they have to do with our diet and our lifestyle.
Okay, since we're talking about, so I get this right too, I'd like to hear from you. Since we're talking about stress, where does cortisol come in?
Well, cortisol, hormone, right, delivered from the adrenal glands mostly, it's our primary stress hormone. It is the hormone that is directly first line of defense when we anticipate, whether it's real or perceived, a stressor.
But we don't take it. We don't take cortisol. But cortisol does something in that period of time of burnout or exhaustion or stress. You know, in the days of cavemen, either they were under stress from running from the animal that wanted to eat them,
Right.
or they were running after the animal so they could eat them because they needed food. So there was some stress in the caveman's life, but it was gone very quickly. As you said before, there's a recovery time. People today don't have recovery time. They don't know how to sleep. They don't know when to go to bed at sundown. So everybody is stressed out. So what happens to the cortisol levels? Do they rise because of that?
So a couple things. And another thing, we mentioned sleep. So cortisol is also, besides being our major stress hormone, is the hormone that sets our sleep-wake cycle, our circadian rhythm. Helps you go to sleep at night naturally if you're away from all of the electromagnetic fields and artificial light. And then it also wakes you up in the morning. But in first stage, second stage adrenal dysfunction, let's say, cortisol starts to rise because guess what? You're on all the time, right? And then because it's not a sustainable state, it will start to decrease. Now, you're feeling awful at this point in time, right? When your cortisol is firing, you don't know because you're going through a divorce, you're moving, kids going off to college, you've got financial issues, you're like so stressed out, you don't even understand how this is affecting you. Once that non-sustainable state hits a certain point, cortisol starts to become deficient. We're utilizing it too much and it's not being replenished because we're not getting into recovery. Now, if you go to a Western allopathic practitioner and you're looking at the adrenal gland from a science perspective, oh, you have Addison's or Cushing's disease. These are the disease states, right, on this continuum. No, it's not that simple. there is a period of adrenal insufficiency or adrenal fatigue for, for more of a lay person's that happens with this chronic stress. And it is really important because all of the symptoms that you can start to exhibit because of it can be completely missed by a practitioner if we're really not honing in on the amount of stress and where that cortisol is.
So what lowers the cortisol? Is that where the adaptogens come in?
So some adaptogens have the ability to, yes, lower the cortisol. We can do that. Romania, licorice. Yes, so licorice root is also a great thing because it in the bloodstream will help cortisol not break down as fast. So we have it circulating more. So the brain can kind of let go of the adrenal gland having to stimulate even more cortisol. So those things are extremely important too.
So I think people should start looking for things like the B vitamins, like
vitamin C, B
vitamin
vitamins,
C, the
yes.
B vitamins, even adrenal extract has been beneficial for some people. So.
Yeah, start to nourish that gland again, that bovine adrenal extract. There's great science in that. And once again, you can have combination synergistic ingredients to do this job, especially when we're dealing with a high stress situation where cortisol was high at one point in time, not sustainable, and now it's deficient. And we kind of can't pull on it anymore, right? That's when people kind of get up against the wall.
I also feel a little bit in this case that I would recommend DHEA.
Yeah, so DHEA, isn't it so it's amazing. It's a precursor to testosterone, so it's in our steroidogenic pathway, but it is also an adrenal hormone. And to be frank with you, DHEA actually starts to decline prior to cortisol when that overall chronic stress starts to really hit that non-sustainable space.
Do you think in some respect that as cortisol gets high, it's like a teeter-totter?
Correct.
If the cortisol goes here, DHEA goes down here. And if you take DHEA, it brings the cortisol down.
There's that nice play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Mm-hmm. That's good.
And once again, you're sort of nourishing and replenishing some of the things that you've just used so much of and you haven't been able to recover properly.
So if we could say, if you have stress, you can look for ways to reduce stress. The proper food,
yes,
good proteins, good fats.
Keeping your blood sugar stable.
Keeping your blood sugar level stable, getting extra sleep, meditation, prayer. Some people find exercising is relaxing. Some people run, they get in the zone, they feel better.
Yoga.
But yoga, Pilates, they're all good things for reducing stress. So you don't let your body burn out before you start doing those things.
Prevention is the cure.
Oh, the best cure.
Prevention is the cure for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for a great program.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. And if anybody wants any of the books that we have written, Dr. Holly, Lucille, and I wrote the book on comfrey. We have a book on melatonin, rapeseed extract, how to reduce pain, antigraphis. They're all great books because you listen to Dr. Holly and I for a few moments, but you probably would read a book and be able to go back and reread it and talk about it and ask questions.
Yeah, and the thing I love about these is they're really super simple reads, but they're also evidence-based.
Yes, all science-based.
All science-based. And so that's helpful that people can bring them in maybe to their practitioner to do some education on their own, obviously educating themselves and their families.
Right.
Because prevention is a cure. We want to respect the healing power of nature because our bodies do. And like I say, I know people, I'll ask, hey, do you have a primary care provider? And most people in the room would put up their hands. But I think at the end of the day, who is mostly responsible for primarily being in charge of their own care? It's each and every individual. And that's sort of my mission in life, is to empower people to open up their minds and use them to make better choices for themselves and their family.
Right. Absolutely. I agree 100%. Thank you for being with me.
That's why I hang out with you, because there's no better place to help get this work done.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Everything that you do.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
I appreciate you.